These theories will make you question everything. So remember, this is for entertainment purposes only.
Why have we not heard from the aliens?
Life would change forever if you had undeniable contact with something.
Voyager 1, humanity's farthest traveled spacecraft, has just detected 300 mysterious alien objects in deep space.
Absolutely, there is life elsewhere, and almost certainly intelligent life. It has to be. The odds are just overwhelming.
Could this be evidence of extraterrestrial life? Or is there another explanation lurking in?
And y'all look at me crazy when I talk about the odds. Start paying attention and thinking about the odds, bro. The odds that we're the only one? Come on, stop it.
The cosmos?
These sightings, they go back decades into the past.
Do you become a multi-planet civilization or not? And if you don't, it's simply a matter of time before something happens on your planet that causes us to die out.
Buckle up as we explore this groundbreaking revelation and what it could mean for the future of space exploration. No one could have predicted 47 years ago that the Voyager 1 spacecraft would continue to play a pivotal role in our solar system's exploration of the outer planets. Even after all this time, the probe is still sending data about its travels back to Earth, so it must be doing something right. The communication from Voyager ushers in an uncertain but potentially rewarding future. The Voyager missions took advantage of a special alignment of the outer planets that happens just once every 176 years. This alignment allows spacecraft to gravitationally slingshot from one planet to the next, making the most efficient use of their limited fuel. Spacecraft from NASA were initially intended to travel beyond Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter, while other probes were to travel past Uranus and Neptune. Even though NASA had to cut back on its intentions because of budget constraints, the two Voyager spacecraft it launched were nevertheless quite useful. As Voyager 2 soared beyond Jupiter and Saturn, it also passed Uranus and Neptune, whereas Voyager 1 was laser-focused on those two planets. Two golden records were approved to be installed on board the Voyagers by NASA, who recognized that the spacecraft would eventually go to interstellar space. Sounds ranging from whale calls to the music of Chuck Berry were placed on board, as well as spoken greetings in 55 languages. In case aliens ever happened upon the spacecraft and were curious about their origins, the 12-inch wide gold-plated copper discs also had schematics illustrating how to operate them, and the sun's location relative to nearby pulsars, a sort of neutron star. A trio of radioisotope thermoelectric generators, which transform the thermal energy emitted by plutonium's radioactive disintegration into usable electricity, power the two spacecraft. A magnetometer, a two-camera image system, various spectrometers, and equipment to detect low-energy charged particles and high-energy cosmic rays were among the 10 scientific instruments attached to the probes. There have been a total of 11 scientific investigations conducted aboard each Voyager by using the communications system to learn more about the planets and moons. Voyager 1's rocket nearly ran out of fuel during launch on September 5, 1977, and the spacecraft nearly never lifted off. However, after a risk-free launch, the probe sped past its twin and went beyond the main asteroid belt between Jupiter and Mars before Voyager 2 could catch up. At a distance of 165 million miles from Earth, the Voyager 1 spacecraft transmitted its initial images of Jupiter to Earth in April 1978. In March 1979, Voyager 1 surprised NASA by detecting a tiny ring encircling the massive planet. Thebe and Metis, two other moons, were also discovered. The large Galilean moons of Jupiter, Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto, and Amalthea were also captured in great detail by Voyager 1. In the same vein as its predecessor, the Pioneer spacecraft, Voyager 2 found that the moons of Jupiter were dynamic, independent worlds. Intriguing new information regarding these naturally occurring satellites was also uncovered by Voyager 1. As an example, the fact that Io is modeled with yellow, brown, and orange and has numerous volcanoes demonstrates that moons, similar to planets, can have dynamic interiors. In addition, images of Europa returned by Voyager 1 revealed a mostly flat surface with lines running across it. suggesting the presence of ice and possibly an ocean beneath it. A large subterranean ocean of liquid water, possibly capable of supporting life similar to that on Earth, is probably harbored by Europa, according to subsequent observations and analyses. On March 5, 1979, Voyager 1 approached Jupiter within 174,000 miles, passing near the tumultuous cloud tops. The probe's next target was Saturn. The only year that scientists had to wait to capture close-up images of Saturn was 1980. Surprisingly, the ringed planet was just as full of surprises as Jupiter. One of Voyager 1's targets was the F ring, a thin structure discovered only the year previously by NASA's Pioneer 11 probe. Voyager's higher-resolution camera spotted two new moons, Prometheus and Pandora, whose orbits keep the icy material in the F ring in a defined orbit. It also discovered Atlas and a new ring, the G ring, and took images of several other Saturn moons. Voyager 1's primary mission came to a close with the Saturn encounter. Following that, attention turned to keeping tabs on the spacecraft as it raced toward interstellar space, weighing 1,590 pounds. But Voyager 1 captured one of the most famous images in spaceflight history 20 years before it achieved that feat. On February 14, 1990, the probe turned back toward Earth and snapped an image of its home planet from 3.7 billion miles away. The photo shows Earth as a tiny dot suspended in a ray of sunlight. The pale blue...
See, that's those odds I be talking about. The tiny dot, what we are in the grand scheme of things is just a tiny little dot, a speck, which makes me think it's no possible way we could be the only ones. Look how big this place is. The universe, the galaxy. Come on, bro.
Dot photograph stands out among the hundreds of other images taken that day by Voyager 1, which included the Sun, 5 other planets, and a multi-image solar system family portrait. This serves as a constant reminder that Earth is a tiny dot in an infinitely huge and unfathomably massive universe. In August 2012, Voyager 1 sprung loose into interstellar space, leaving behind the heliosphere, the enormous bubble of charged particles that the Sun blows around itself. The results came to light after a powerful solar eruption was recorded by Voyager 1's plasma wave instrument between April 9th and May 22nd, 2013. The eruption caused electrons near Voyager 1 to vibrate. From the oscillations, researchers discovered that Voyager 1's surroundings had a higher density than what is found just inside the heliosphere. It seems contradictory that electron density is higher in interstellar space than it is in the Sun's neighborhood. However, researchers explained that at the edge of the heliosphere, the electron density is dramatically low compared with locations near Earth. After retracing their steps through Voyager 1's records, scientists finally settled on August 25, 2012, as the formal departure date. The electron oscillations and the spacecraft's readings of charged solar particles both contributed to fixing the date. On that fateful day, which coincided with the death of Apollo 11 astronaut Neil Armstrong, the spacecraft detected an increase of 9% in galactic cosmic rays, which originate from beyond our solar system, and a 1,000-fold decrease in these particles. At that point, Voyager 1 was 11.25 billion miles from the Sun. Voyager 1 has been sending back a wealth of useful information about the interstellar medium ever since it soared into orbit. Among its many findings are proof of the extremely high levels of cosmic radiation and evidence of the interaction between charged particles generated by stars and those originating from the Sun. Engineers are still in awe of the spacecraft's capabilities. For instance, in December 2017, NASA declared that Voyager 1 had effectively oriented itself to talk to Earth using its backup thrusters. The last time the trajectory correction maneuver thrusters were activated was during the flyby of Saturn in November 1980 by Voyager 1. From that point on, the spacecraft's usual attitude control thrusters became the primary means of guiding it into an optimal communication position with Earth. However, as the attitude control thrusters started to fail, NASA opted to try out the trajectory correction maneuver thrusters, which could let Voyager 1 last longer in operation. In the end, that test was successful. There are further steps that the mission crew has taken to increase Voyager 1's lifespan. To assist preserve Voyager 1's limited power supply, for instance, the cameras on board were disabled not long after the pale blue dot photo was captured. Since the cameras couldn't capture much light in space, 5 additional scientific instruments have been disabled by the mission team. At the same time, Voyager 1 stopped transmitting any data to Earth in November of last year, suggesting that it was not collecting any engineering or scientific information. Fixing the fault of the universe's most isolated spacecraft isn't as easy as pie. Problems arose for NASA when the probe suddenly stopped relaying data on the stuff between the stars. Commands transmitted from mission controllers take 22.5 hours to reach the small probe, and the engineering crew must wait the same period again for a response, all because the spacecraft is 15 billion miles away and hurtling along at 32,000 miles per hour. More than 5 months have passed as NASA has worked on the matter. In March, the initial intention was to offer the spacecraft a digital poke. This method is analogous to a doctor using air puffs to identify cavities in teeth. The NASA team sent a command to the spacecraft, telling it to relay a full memory readout back to Earth, emphasizing any malfunctioning components. The Flight Data Subsystem, one of Voyager's 3 onboard computers, is in charge of packaging the science and engineering data before returning it to Earth. This chip is where the poke reported malfunction was discovered. Because of the bug, the computer was producing repeating gibberish consisting of binary ones and zeros, giving the impression that it was stuck, rather than providing science, temperature, and engineering data. Since NASA had to become creative because the broken chip couldn't be replaced, they had to find a different space in the Flight Data Subsystem memory to store the troublesome code. The scenario became much more complicated because no single site could carry the entire section of the code. So they devised a plan to keep in touch and work together while dividing the affected code into smaller pieces and moving those pieces into the computer's memory. Now, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory of NASA has officially declared that Voyager is back in service following the most remarkable long-range software update in history. We now eagerly await the influx of Voyager 1 scientific data in the upcoming weeks. It is unclear what caused the chip to malfunction, but the team is considering the possibility that it was damaged by an energetic particle from space or just became worn out after 47 years. It's also unclear to NASA if this is a solar or interstellar occurrence. Voyager 1's next big encounter will take place in 40,000 years, when the probe comes within 1.7 light-years of the star AC +N 79 3888, or Gliese 445. Instead of sending...
That's why they need to get that age reversing things that scientists are working on, so we could be around for that. I wouldn't mind to be around 40,000 years from now to see that happen. Wouldn't y'all? Huh? I don't want to miss this, bro. Cause like the next stages and the next steps that these Voyagers are gonna discover, the James Webb is gonna uncover, and the ones that they're preparing to go out in the next several years or decade. Like, I want to be around to witness all of these discoveries and finding, especially the one that finds life. That is the main one I want to be around for, when the first one discovers life on another planet.
Voyager 1 to Proxima Centauri, which is 4.22 light-years away, why did we direct it toward Gliese 445, which is 17.58 light-years away from Earth? No effort was made to direct Voyager 1 towards objects beyond the solar system. After passing Saturn and Titan, not even a preliminary attempt to conduct scientific research was considered. The whole history of Voyager 1's operations since 1980 can be attributed to an extended mission that was developed after the initial mission's completion. The remaining systems on Voyager 1 and 2 will enter a safe mode when the power level drops below what is required in approximately 5 to 6 more years, at which point the computers will detect a PWRRIR situation. Only the 60-bit per second engineering feed will make it back to Earth. The signal will be lost and Voyager will lose alignment of the high-gain transmitter to Earth if the computers are not operating and if ongoing guidance is not provided. The computer will turn off completely a few years later when the instrument bay heaters fall below a certain critical level. The Voyager will essentially cease to exist. The craft will reach space temperature after another 800 years, when the plutonium RTG cores will have reduced their heat output to less than 1% of its initial output. About 39 millennia after that, Voyager 1 will pass an unimpressive 1.76 light-years from Gliese 445. This is not because Voyager is traveling towards Gliese, but because Gliese is screaming towards the solar system at 12 times the velocity of Voyager. It will actually pass the Sun with over 2.5 light-years distance to spare, so no special cause for alarm, while Voyager will be only about 2 light-years away from Earth at that point in time. As Proxima approaches its closest proximity to the Sun, it will begin to move away from us again in around 10,000 years, making the journey nearly 30,000 years longer. Even if it weren't, then crossing the 422 light-years would take Voyager close to 90,000 years at its current rate of travel. So,
you know what also would be interesting? I wonder why they don't like weaponize these different Voyagers or spacecrafts or different things like that. Why not weaponize them? Put something on there that way, just in case you come across something that could be directly aimed at our planet. You could take it out, shoot it down, hit it with a laser beam, something. You know what I mean? Why don't we have those equipped with something like that? I know we have that whole, and I got to revisit that to understand it, that whole treaty we signed with different companies about that, having different weapons up there in space. I got to go back and look at that and see what it actually entails of, but that might answer my question right there.
actually, totally by accident, scientists chose the star that will provide the earliest, closest encounter available in the next 100,000 years or so. Not that it will make any difference. By then, Voyager 1 will be just a lump of inert metal and plastic, serenely tumbling through the inky darkness, all alone in a shining sea of stars, humanity's most distant and first emissary to the Milky Way. Is there anybody out there? Because of its scope and scope, SETI is an undertaking that calls for substantial teamwork. For instance, the 100-meter Green Bank Telescope in West Virginia, the largest steerable radio telescope in the world, is being used in a project that is being supported by the Planetary Society to search across a broad spectrum of radio frequencies. While the radio telescope's wide field of view allows them to detect tens of thousands of extra stars and planetary systems, their observations center on 100 stars known to have planets orbiting them. The next step is for citizen scientists all over the globe to filter through the data and identify the most promising signals by classifying them. This will assist in identifying the various sources of radio signals that Earth's intelligent life has produced. At last, trained SETI specialists go back over those signals to see whether they still hold any water as possible indicators of intelligent life. It all adds up to hundreds of hours of work for what amounts to a search for a small fraction of space. Perhaps we haven't found what we're searching for because SETI's reach is very huge, given the size of the universe. Probably any extraterrestrial intelligence is likewise running its own SETI program. We have the same chance of being detected by a highly developed civilization as they have of being detected by us. The signals we intentionally put out for this reason have the best chance of being picked up by other types of life. Even while all electromagnetic communication travels at the speed of light, not all signals are equally strong as they recede from their origin. Several parameters, such as the transmitter's power and the signal's frequency, determine the maximum distance a transmission may cover. Even though it's a popular science fiction concept, it's quite unlikely that extraterrestrials will be able to pick up our wayward television signals. Since television signals aren't meant to go very far, the transmitters used to transmit them are rather feeble. By this point, the first television transmissions have probably made it beyond our solar system. However, by the time they reach interstellar space, they are so faint that they would be nearly impossible to tell apart from the vastness of the universe. the range of some of our radar signals is probably going to be quite large. Similar to the now-defunct Arecibo Observatory, which utilized radar to detect faraway asteroids and other celestial bodies, missile detection radar makes use of extremely powerful transmitters. If the extraterrestrials weren't much further away than the nearest nearby star system, it's plausible that they might detect those radar emissions and determine that they were technological in nature. To be picked up by alien civilizations, humans have purposefully transmitted multiple powerful signals into space. The act of intentionally transmitting messages into space has sparked discussions within scientific and ethical circles.
How do we know we haven't received any signal back, any communication back? That's my question. We always hear about the signals going out, but we never get an update, any information saying whether or not we picked up on something. We're speculating whether or not it was something, anything like that. We've heard about the wow signal, but that's where it stops. We haven't heard about anything. Not even to say, well, here's an update. Haven't gotten anything back yet. None of that.
One worry is that our entire species and planet are entrusted to a tiny handful of people, or even just a few individuals. A number of ethicists have voiced concerns about the inherent unfairness of this. Another problem with METI is that it's hard to predict what kind of aliens could be listening to our signals and what they could be trying to accomplish. There's a chance that we could be discovered by an advanced alien race that is either trying to conquer the galaxy and wipe out all life on Earth, or by a more benign race that is interested in sharing knowledge about interstellar travel, power generation, or any other technology that could change the world. Experts in space policy have argued that it is not sensible to put resources on METI, since we do not know what would happen if we establish contact with intelligent aliens. Ultimately, though, it's possible that we'll be discovered by aliens looking for life beyond their own planet, whether we try or not. The possibility of life's existence elsewhere in the universe is one of the fundamental and unanswered mysteries about our reality, and it may not be up to us whether we solve that mystery.
Imagine if massive alien spacecraft and their smaller companions were quietly visiting planets within our solar system. It might sound like science fiction, but it's not just speculation. It's a notion proposed by the head of the Pentagon's department dedicated to researching unidentified flying objects. This revelation was noted in a draft report shared in early March 2023. According to Sean Kirkpatrick, director of the Pentagon's Anomaly Resolution Office, these potential visitors could be deploying smaller probes during their close encounters with Earth. This operational strategy isn't too different from how NASA conducts its space missions. Kirkpatrick collaborated on this idea with Abraham Loeb, a well-known astronomer from Harvard University. Speaking of Loeb, he's the one who stirred up a storm of discussion about Oumuamua, a mysterious interstellar object. He's the only notable scientist who openly supported the idea that it could be an alien probe. Loeb even speculates that there could be hundreds of similar objects like Oumuamua lurking in our solar system, some hidden in the Kuiper Belt, others in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, and even some potentially submerged in our oceans.
Just blending in, just blending in with everything around it. We don't know if they preparing, getting ready to do something to us. We just don't know, but we keep turning a blind eye to it. We don't seem to investigate it, send something to it. More, we could have sent something to it, landed on it, investigated, drilled on it, everything. But we didn't. Why is that?
Lying dormant until activated. Loeb goes even further, suggesting that there could be a mind-boggling 4 quintillion Oumuamua-like objects cruising around our solar system. While he's not definitively stating that Oumuamua was an alien craft, he urges us to remain open to that possibility. Considering these ideas, one can't help but wonder how many potential Oumuamuas could be out there, flying under the radar. Loeb and his colleague Carson Ezell from Harvard delved into this question. They analyzed recent rates of detection of interstellar objects and estimated that there could be up to a staggering 40 decillion interstellar objects in our entire solar system. However, when focusing on the habitable zone near the Sun, the number decreases to a more modest 4 quintillion, still an impressive figure. With Loeb's theories stretching the boundaries of conventional thinking, it's clear that there's much we still don't know about the cosmos. Even if the majority of these interstellar objects turn out to be ordinary space debris, there's still room for the possibility that some of them could be alien spacecraft. But where might these mysterious visitors be hiding? One amazing possibility is the Kuiper Belt, a remote and icy region of our solar system beyond the orbit of Neptune. It's a vast expanse, primarily composed of icy objects, dwarf planets, and other debris. Among the countless objects in the Kuiper Belt is 158810 Orion, a celestial enigma that has piqued the interest of NASA. In April 2016, NASA's New Horizons probe, fresh from its encounter with Pluto, turned its attention towards Orion. This large object follows a peculiar trajectory, prompting speculation about its true nature. Could it be just a rock? Or is there something more to it than meets the eye? The mysteries of the cosmos continue to captivate our imagination as we search for answers among the distant reaches of space. Let's delve into the mystery of 15810 Orion, named after the Celtic deity associated with death, war, and the mystical realm beyond. So, what makes this object so puzzling, you wonder? Well, most things hanging out in the Kuiper Belt are your typical mix of rock and ice. But Orion? It moves in a way that's unlike anything else we've cataloged in the belt. This has scientists scratching their heads, wondering if it might be made of something entirely different, maybe even something super strong, considering how fast it's spinning. It's spinning so rapidly that it should have torn itself apart by now. But here's where it gets really interesting. Scientists think this fast spin might be creating artificial gravity, and when it comes to long space journeys, gravity is crucial. Imagine astronauts floating around their spaceship for hundreds of light years. It's just not practical. This curiosity prompted NASA's New Horizons probe to take a closer look at Orion. Now here's where things start to get strange. As the probe got closer, all of its sensors suddenly went dark and its transmissions cut off. It was as if something or someone didn't want us snooping around. But just before losing contact, NASA noticed something peculiar. Orion was spinning like a spaceship. Now you might think it's just a glitch in the system, but hold on to your hat, because it gets even weirder. It wasn't until New Horizons moved away from Orion that everything came back online, as if nothing had happened. So what could it be? Some speculate it might be an intelligent alien civilization, quietly observing us from the cold, dark depths of the Kuiper Belt. And when they need to take a closer look, they simply hop on a spaceship and disguise it as a regular old space rock. But that's not all. Remember Oumuamua, that strange visitor from interstellar space? Well, Loeb thinks it might be alien space junk or an active spy craft sent to check out our solar system. And there are reasons to lean towards the latter explanation. Oumuamua's discovery was odd, and its motion matches the average motion of material in our part of the Milky Way galaxy.
They could be on a reconnaissance mission to see if we're a threat yet. You know, we're constantly building or designing new things, weaponry, artillery, different things like that. And they could be checking in. Nope, they're not a threat yet. Nope, they're still not a threat yet. And then when we go and create something and then we become a threat, and then they make themselves known. These are just things I'm throwing out there. I'm thinking that they could be doing as to why we haven't seen them yet.
It's almost as if its origin has been deliberately obscured. In the vast expanse of space, where mysteries abound, Orion and Oumuamua remind us that there's still so much we don't know. And perhaps, just perhaps, the truth is out there, waiting to be discovered. Reports of strange aircraft and humanoid figures have persisted in the news, with even reputable sources covering them. However, these reports are often swiftly dismissed or ignored. The rapid suppression of such news has fueled speculation that the US government might be concealing evidence of UFOs and even the presence of extraterrestrial life. Yet, testimonies originate from eyewitnesses, rendering them undeniable, as illustrated by the subsequent occurrences. In 1966, one of the biggest UFO sightings in history occurred. It involved around 300 students and some staff members of a school in Melbourne who witnessed multiple UFOs flying silently through the air before landing on a nearby field. Despite much speculation over the years, one particular account from a science teacher at the school stands out. Alerted by a hysterical student, the science teacher, Andrew, rushed outside to see what was happening. What he saw changed his perspective entirely. Andrew, who had been skeptical about UFO sightings, witnessed an object the size of a car with a metal rod sticking up in the air. This incredible sight made him rethink his beliefs. Every time he tried to approach the object, it would slowly then rapidly accelerate, eluding his grasp. This bizarre dance went on for about 20 minutes before the UFO vanished completely. The headmaster tried to hush up the incident, even threatening severe punishments. But expecting kids who saw an alien spaceship to stay silent is quite a stretch, don't you think? Let's delve into the Mount Rainier incident, a significant event in UFO history. It all started on June 24, 1947, when Kenneth Arnold was flying from Chehalis, Washington to Yakima, Washington. He was on a privately owned plane when something unexpected happened. Out of nowhere, a bright light flashed on one of Kenneth's wings. Surprised, he glanced around and spotted 9 unidentified flying objects approaching Mount Rainier. Even against the snowy backdrop, Kenneth could see their outline as they flew close to the mountaintops, heading south to the southeast along the Hogsback. These objects formed a long linked chain, reflecting sunlight as they moved. Kenneth estimated they were about 20 to 25 miles away and couldn't spot any tails on them. He watched in awe for about 3 minutes as the saucer-like objects darted between the mountain peaks, their shiny surfaces reflecting the sun's rays like mirrors. Despite his detailed account, Kenneth faced ridicule for his story, which left him feeling resentful. Yet, he remained steadfast in his claims, convinced of what he had witnessed. In 2006, at O'Hare International Airport in Chicago, just before Flight 446 was scheduled to depart for North Carolina, a United Airlines worker on the tarmac spotted a dark gray metallic craft hovering over one of the gates. He alerted about 11 other employees and a few bystanders who confirmed seeing this strange sight before it vanished. According to eyewitnesses, this sighting occurred around 4:15 p.m., and the craft hovered over the gate for about 5 minutes before shooting upwards into the sky. It's puzzling how such a craft managed to evade detection by the airport's radar system. The Federal Aviation Administration dismissed the incident as a weather phenomenon and declined to investigate it further.
I'm so sick of hearing them use that excuse, bro. How much longer are they gonna get by with that and get away with that, using that? Weather device, weather balloon, weather this, weather that. Come on, man. Maybe a majority of them are, but every one of them can't be, bro. Come on now.
Despite the consistent accounts of around 15 witnesses. In the big UFO flap of 1952, there was widespread concern about flying saucers following a surge in UFO sightings and reports of alien abductions. Washington, D.C. in particular, was a hotbed for these rumors, and the big flap became a major news story. Numerous unidentified flying objects were reported flying past prominent landmarks like the White House and Capitol building. Radar operators tracked these objects, prompting the deployment of 2 F-94 jets to investigate. However, whenever the jets approached the mysterious objects on radar, they would mysteriously disappear. On October 21, 1978, Frederick Valentich, an Australian pilot, vanished without leaving any trace behind. This puzzling event has been famously dubbed the disappearance. Frederick was on a routine training flight when he radioed Melbourne Air Traffic Control, reporting that he was being followed by an aircraft above him and experiencing engine trouble. However, the air traffic controllers couldn't detect any other aircraft nearby. Frederick insisted he could see a large aircraft with bright landing lights and a green light orbiting him. As Frederick tried to describe the mysterious craft, the transmission abruptly ended with a metallic scraping sound. All contact with Frederick and his aircraft was lost. Despite extensive sea and air searches, neither Frederick nor his plane were ever found. Numerous theories emerged to explain Frederick's disappearance, but none could be substantiated with physical evidence. Some suggested UFO involvement, citing other UFO incidents reported in the same area that night. However, without concrete evidence, these theories remained speculative. The case of Frederick Valentich's disappearance remains unsolved, leaving us with more questions than answers. Yet, it serves as a captivating mystery that continues to puzzle us. On October 4th, 1967, something mysterious crashed into the waters near Shag Harbor, a small town in Nova Scotia. This event was witnessed by at least 11 people, each having their unique perspective. Some described seeing an object fall from the sky with a whistling sound, followed by a loud bang upon impact. Among the witnesses were a couple quietly sitting on their front porch, but the most interesting accounts came from 2 flight pilots and a ship captain aboard Air Canada's Flight 305. They observed a strange object flying alongside their plane, described as a brightly lit rectangular shape with smaller lights trailing behind. Shortly after this sighting, there were 2 explosive events near the object. Similarly, the ship captain, Leo Howard, spotted 4 blips on his radar, followed by bright objects forming a rectangular shape about 28 kilometers away. Around 20 fishermen also saw this and reported it to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP. Despite investigations involving the Canadian Air Force, nothing was ever found or recovered, leaving many questions unanswered. In France in July 1965, a French farmer named Maurice Masse had a remarkable UFO encounter. One day, while taking a break from work and smoking a cigarette outside, Maurice saw an object descending from the sky and landing in his lavender field, just about 200 feet away from where he stood. Initially, Maurice thought it was a helicopter that had landed among his flowers without permission, and he was annoyed about the ruined lavender. However, as he approached the object to confront the pilot, he realized it wasn't a helicopter at all. Upon closer inspection, Maurice saw an oval-shaped structure standing on 4 legs, and at the front of it were 2 small figures, each about 4 feet tall. He couldn't understand the language they were speaking, as it sounded like grumbling. One of the figures even pointed a device at him, which left Maurice frozen in place, unable to move. After a while, the creatures boarded their flying saucer and flew away from Maurice's lavender farm. It wasn't until about 20 minutes later that Maurice felt his body unfreeze and could move again. Although the story may seem unbelievable, there was some physical evidence left behind.
Ain't that unbelievable to me? I believe him, bro. I believe him. That's just got to be a horrible, terrible feeling, bro. To experience that, fam. Not being able to move, but you're kind of aware of everything that's taking place and going on around you and happening to you. Yeah. No.
The area where the object landed had a hole in the ground, and the soil was damp. Over time, the soil hardened, becoming as solid as concrete. The flowers in that area also began to die off, and soil analysis showed higher calcium deposits compared to other parts of the field. All signs pointed to Maurice being truthful about his encounter. In another incident, Lieutenant Colonel Richard French once had a unique task: investigating UFO sightings for Project Blue Book, a study by the U.S. Air Force from 1952 to 1969. While his job was to debunk UFO rumors, he ended up sharing a personal UFO encounter with Congress that he couldn't explain. His experience took place in 1952 in Newfoundland, where he investigated reports of a crashed UFO. Arriving at the scene, he saw a crowd gathered at the shore, staring into the clear water. To his amazement, he saw 2 circular crafts, each about 18 feet wide, floating just below the surface, not far from the shore. But that wasn't all. Colonel Richard also observed 2 beings near the crafts, working on them underwater. One of these beings suddenly rose out of the water and vanished, speeding to incredible speeds of up to 3,000 miles per hour. This account, coming from someone tasked with dismissing UFO sightings, challenges our understanding of such phenomena. On November 23, 1953, the Air Force disappearance occurred right on a military base near the Canadian-US border. The United States Air Defense Command noticed a blip on their radar where there shouldn't have been one, indicating something like an unidentifiable object in restricted airspace over Lake Superior. To investigate this anomaly, an F-89C Scorpion was sent out with 2 crew members. First Lieutenant Felix Monclaw piloted the aircraft, while Second Lieutenant Robert Wilson observed the radar keenly. As they became airborne, they faced difficulty tracking the object, which constantly changed its course. Ground control assisted them in directing their aircraft. The Scorpion jet pursued the unidentified object for about 30 minutes, closing in at 500 miles per hour. Suddenly, the blips on the radar, one being the UFO and the other the Scorpion jet sent to investigate, converged into one. At that moment, the Scorpion F-89C vanished from ground control's radar. The unidentified flying object veered off and disappeared shortly after. The first and second lieutenants piloting the F-89C Scorpion jet vanished with their aircraft, never to be seen or heard from again. Despite extensive search efforts, no wreckage was ever found to suggest an accident. In March of 1996, the chilling tale known as the Project Grudge Report 13 saga unfolded. This project report stands as one of the most terrifying stories regarding alien encounters and UFO sightings. It all transpired at the White Sands Missile Testing Grounds near Holloman Air Force Base in New Mexico. While scouring the area for debris from a recent rocket launch, Major William Cunningham and Sergeant Jonathan P. Lovett encountered a spine-chilling event. A piercing scream shattered the silence, prompting Major Cunningham to investigate. What he witnessed was beyond belief. Long, serpentine arms dragging Sergeant Lovett towards a hovering, disc-like structure in the sky. Frozen with shock, Major Cunningham watched helplessly as the craft whisked his partner away into the darkness. Following the report of the incident and Major Cunningham's hospitalization for observation, search teams were dispatched to locate Sergeant Lovett. 3 agonizing days later, his body was discovered in a severely damaged condition. An extensive investigation purportedly chronicled in a 600-page dossier known as Project Grudge Report 13 was undertaken.
That's the one good thing out of all of this. The fact that they're documenting and doing a good job record keeping. Because I think when they do make themselves known, that information, that record, all those records of sightings and landings in different locations, I think that's going to be vital information down the line as to what they were doing, connecting the dots of why they were here, what they were doing here, and figuring out and putting a puzzle together of what they were doing, looking for, or why they're here now and what they've been doing. I think all of that information and sightings are going to be crucial and vital.
However, the U.S. government has denied the existence of this report, leaving the truth shrouded in mystery. From tales of abductions to peculiar sightings in the nocturnal heavens, the evidence of extraterrestrial existence poses legitimate concerns. Considering these UFO sighting reports and others like them, the U.S. government decided to launch investigations into the matter. After much anticipation, the Pentagon released a report that poured cold water on the idea that we might not be alone in the universe. This report claims that there is no evidence the U.S. government has ever encountered alien life and suggests that most reported UFO sightings are simply misidentified ordinary objects. However, journalists and experts who have dedicated their lives to researching the subject disagree with these claims. The report, titled The Historical Record Report, is the first volume of a probe conducted by the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO, a government agency established in 2022 to address various threats, including unidentified objects in space or in the air. Despite widespread interest in the report, News Nation, along with other media outlets, was not allowed to attend the meeting where it was discussed. According to the transcript of the meeting, the Pentagon emphasized that there is no secret UFO program and that they conducted a thorough investigation into the matter. However, they mentioned something new called the Gremlin system, a deployable surveillance system developed over the past year to gather information about unidentified objects reported in the air, space, or underwater. While the Arrow claims to have found no evidence of a secret UFO program, insiders in the field believe otherwise. Some individuals believe that high-level government officials may be aware of such programs, despite the ARO's findings. Some whistleblowers are planning to come forward with information contradicting the report's conclusions. The government has stated that they will continue to investigate reported sightings, as they receive over 100 cases every month from various sources. However, skeptics remain unconvinced about the depth of the investigation and question whether there is more to the story than what has been revealed so far.